How do I complete the ARM Lawyer's paper bankruptcy questionnaire? Find out today on Bankruptcy Basics.
I'm Kate Best, bankruptcy paralegal here at ARM Lawyers in Attorney Patrick Best's office. Today I want to take you step by step through filling out our debtor questionnaire. At the top of the form, you'll see the web address and QR code. This will link you directly to a portion of our website which talks about completing this questionnaire. So if you have any questions, feel free to do that. The first section is all going to talk about contact information. You'll list your name as well as the name of your co-debtor if you are jointly filing. You're going to indicate both phone numbers, email address, birth date, as well as social security number. This is the only time we'll get your social security number, so it's important it's there and legible. Going down further, it talks about prior bankruptcies. If in the last 8 years either of you have had a prior bankruptcy, please indicate yes or no. Write down the date that it was filed as well as the state and/or district. You're going to indicate your marital status as well as how many people live in the household. Please take into consideration children, grandchildren, cousins. You're going to list their relationship as well as their age. There's a couple little notes here. Please read them. It's very important that we have all of the information that we've requested to quickly put together your petition. Moving on to the next page, it talks about your address. You're going to put your residential address and how long you've lived there. You're going to indicate if you own or if you rent. You own it even if you do have a mortgage payment, so please keep that in mind. If you rent, please write down the amount of your monthly rent. Same thing for a co-debtor. If your co-debtor lives elsewhere, please indicate their address and if they own or rent. Further down, it asks about mortgage company. You may have a first mortgage, you may have a second mortgage. If you have a home equity loan, that would be considered a second mortgage. You're going to list that information there. Your monthly mortgage payments, how much you pay each month, what's your current balance, as well as any arrearages. Indicating if there's a foreclosure pending, and if you have a sheriff's sale date, please write it down. It's important that we are kept up to date on any and all sheriff's sale dates. The next page talks about vehicles. Here's where you'll list cars that you may own outright if they do not have a loan. If they do have a loan, please indicate who the finance, or if it's a leased vehicle, who the lease company is. What's the monthly payment as well as the balance. Also in this section, we'll go items like campers, boats, ATVs. This next section talks about personal items. At the top, you'll note here, use yard sale estimates for value unless you have an appraisal. If you have an appraisal, use that value. So we often group items together. So for the household goods sections, we would do furniture, including beds, desks, dressers, mattresses, and then put a value down. Remember, it's yard sale value, not how much you paid for it. Going further down, electronics, items like televisions, cell phones, laptops, surround sound systems. Put all of those together and estimate the value. Again, if you have an appraisal on a collectible of value or jewelry, please make sure you note that that's the appraised value and provide us with the appraisal. Pets, we often get lots of questions on pets. Most of the time we value dogs and cats at $50 a piece. Unless they're show quality or have papers, at that point we would use your best discretion on value. Rounding it out is sporting and hobby equipment as well as firearms. The following pages are going to talk about financial accounts. So there's 2 areas for checking accounts, 2 areas for saving accounts. You'll notice that it asks what bank it is, the account number, the balance. If it was closed, please write the date it was closed and the bank address. The court will want that information. So you'll see there's sections for checking, savings, as well as money market and brokerage accounts. Our next page continues to talk about financial accounts. What is your cash on hand? Everyone has some sort of cash on hand, even if it's just pennies in their car. Please just estimate how much cash you have on hand. Asks about retirement accounts, pensions, life insurance. Life insurance is important to know if it is a term policy or a whole policy. If it's a whole policy, it will have cash value. That's the information we're looking for here when it asks about value. We will also need a statement indicating what the cash value is. Please also think about any past due monies that's owed to you, such as an expected tax refund. If you in 2020 received a tax refund for your 2019 taxes, you'll most likely receive a tax refund on your 2020 taxes. So please write down what you anticipate you'll get in the coming year. The next 2 pages talk about income. The first page here talks about debtor 1 income. So is it full or part-time? Is it self-employment? Is it a seasonal? You're gonna write down your occupation. So what you do, how long you've done there, who is your employer, their name, as well as their address, and you're gonna list how often you're paid and how much per paycheck you receive. You're also going to list any non-employment income, unemployment, retirement, Social Security. You'll click that box or check that box and then indicate again how often are you paid, monthly, weekly, as well as how much you get per payment. Next page is debtor 2, same information. If you are married, your spouse needs to provide their information as far as income. Even if you're not filing jointly, their income is considered, so you need to make sure that their information is listed here as well. Even if they just receive retirement or Social Security, please indicate that and then how much they receive. Monthly expenses is next. You'll see there's a note, please list monthly estimated amounts for each expense listed. So you've already talked about your mortgage payment and or your rent further up. Here we're gonna go through the rest of your utilities and expenses. And again, a lot of times people will say, well, my electric is higher in the summer because my air conditioning is on, and my heat is higher in the winter because my heat is on. That's fine. Think about the year as a whole and then divide it out over 12 so we can get an accurate monthly amount. Same thing with your medical expenses. You may only get 1 pair of glasses a year, but if they cost $200, divide that out over the year, and that's how much you'd spend in glasses costs over the year. You'll go through, if you don't have any expenses, if you have no children, you have no school expenses or daycare expenses, that's fine, just leave them blank. The next section we're going to talk about is the statement of financial affairs. In this section, it's going to ask a lot of questions about the finances and your situation during a certain time period. So each question is going to ask something like, during the last 3 years, within the last 8 years. It's important you look at the timeline as well as what the question asks when you're filling it out. So this first question talks about, have you lived anywhere else other than where you live now? So yes or no. If so, please give the street address, city, state, and zip code, as well as the date you lived there. Month and year are fine. Again, this one asks, within the last 8 years, did you ever live in a community property state? Those states are listed below. Yes or no, and the following information. These next 2 questions get our clients every time. Did you have any income from employment or operating a business during this or the last 2 years? So if you are employed, self-employed, or own a business, you must answer this question. First portion is debtor 1, current year to date, last year, and the prior year. You can get this information from your tax returns or your W-2 or 1099. Same thing for debtor 2, current year, last year, and the year before. The next section asks about other types of income. So this is workers' compensation, Social Security, pension, or unemployment. Again, debtor 1, debtor 2, year to date, last calendar year, and the year before. If you're filling this out, but for some reason we don't file right away, this year to date may change. So make sure you have that information with you when we do the signing so that we can change that information. Again, please pay attention to the timeline with any questions. This question asks within the last 90 days, whereas this one asks within a year. So as you go through, look at the timeline and then look at what the question asks to really think. This question, question 8, is important. It asks about, were you a party in a lawsuit or court action? It's important we have that information listed so the court can be notified of your filing and all of that judgment action can be stopped. Was any of your property repossessed, foreclosed, garnished, attached, levied, or seized? It's important information. Please indicate who received it, the amount that was taken, and the date. Just going through, making sure you really think about the timeline and the question. We're looking to make sure we have all of the information listed. If a question is here on the questionnaire, it's because either we need to know the answer to complete the petition, or we will need to tell the court the answer. Again, within 10 years, within 1 year, now or within the last year, have you had a safety deposit box or storage unit? Again, list the name of the facility, the address, what do you have there, and how much is it worth? Really think about your assets. The next section talks about the document checklist. So this is a handy little tool. It's more for you than it is for us. It helps you keep track of what you've already sent to us. We love getting clear, clean, scanned copies through email or fax of any and all documents. It makes it easier, and most of the documents we have to scan to submit to the bankruptcy court digitally anyway. So if you have already sent your PACE checks, just give that a click. Yes, I sent it in. So that way you have all of the documents we need in and ready for us to work on the petition. Please always make sure you get copies to us. We don't want your original title or registration. If for any reason none of these documents apply to you, that's fine. Just really think about your situation, your assets, and at a minimum, things like your driver's license and social security card, we'd love to have a copy. The last section here asks about additional creditors. We will run your credit report. So if you do not know who is on your credit, it's a good idea to open up a Credit Karma account. We probably spoke about this during the consultation. We need to know approximately how much you owe in things like secured, unsecured, or priority debts. So we would have had that information during the consultation, but it's always a good idea to give your credit report another look prior to filing. If they're on your credit report, it will populate when I run your credit report. If they're not, it won't. So it's important they're listed here. All we need are names, addresses, and approximately how much you owe. I don't need account numbers, and for medical debt, I don't need dates of service. One name and address and the approximate balance is fine. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact our office at any time. We're here to help. We look forward to giving you that clean start.